We want to welcome you to this broadcast coming your way from Germany, direct from the Varusschlacht Museum and Park. My guest on the broadcast is Dr. Heldrun Berks. I think I got it right. And she's the director of the museum. We've got a lot of things we're going to talk about. We're actually broadcasting this from the observation tower, part of the museum that is here. So first of all, Heldrun, if I can call you that, a little background on the history of the battlefield site and this museum, because up until 15, 20 years ago, we weren't sure that the Varusschlacht, sometimes called Hermannschlacht, it's where Hermann the Cheruscan led the Germanic tribes and they defeated the Romans. It wasn't until maybe 20 years ago or so that we knew that this probably is the site, and maybe just a little background on how that was determined and how long this museum and park has been here.
Yes, thank you very much for this question, and I'm very happy to have you here, so welcome here on site. Well, yes, as you said, it's 20 years ago that it's almost 30 years ago that we started, and it was actually quite a surprise when the first finds were coming up and the first ideas were coming up that could relate to the Varus battle. And funny enough, the story started with an Englishman. It was a British major, Tony Clun, who went out and he had this idea to look out for the Varus battle, because this history was on the screen, one could say, for 400 years already. People were looking out for this place and he wanted to find it. So he went out here and he had an idea where to look for, and surprisingly enough, he found objects. He found Roman coins and he found the very famous slingshots, and that was something like the missing link in a long ongoing riddle, and that supported archaeologists to start with excavations, and that was in 1989. And from then on, the development was rather fast. It took a couple of years until scientists were quite sure that these finds and the site must relate somehow to the Varus battle. And then it took another 10 years for us to come up with the idea to have a museum on site. And now we are here in 2000. We opened the park and the museum, and since then the place is running.
And Tony Clun, of course, also had been in New Ulm, I think, a couple of times, and spoke, and he talked about the discovery of the coins, and of course the slingshot. That was a major battlefield item that was being used by the Romans and how they fought, and perhaps by others as well. And of course all this ties into something we have in New Ulm. We have Hermann, the statue and monument of Hermann the German, Hermann the Cheruscan, and he was the one that is, at least all history indicates, he's the one that led the Germans in the battle, kind of unified them into what happened around 7 to 9 AD, correct?
Yes.
And so Hermann was there, and so they have, there's a statue of Hermann in Detmold, Germany, which is a few miles from here, but it's all part of the same area, the Teutoburg Forest, correct?
Yes, the whole area is called Teutoburg Forest, but funny enough, that is not its original name. That happened in the 16th century when this enthusiasm started, when people found these first antique sources on the Varus battle. And of course the major question was, where did it happen? And they were so convinced that it must have been in this area that they simply went about and renamed this mountain, and they said, well, this is going to be from this day on the Teutoburg Forest. And in the next 4 centuries, people were always looking and searching for this battle, because they thought, okay, this is on the map signed as Teutoburg Forest, so that must be the place that Tacitus is talking about.
And of course, the one mountain nearby that this is all related to is the Kolkarisa mountain, and it's right in this immediate area. We talk about this Varusschlacht, and again, it could be called Hermannschlacht, but it's called Varusschlacht. He was the one who was the leader of the Roman army, and 3 of the legions were defeated here, probably about 18,000 soldiers, and then the support staff as well. But so that's where the name Varusschlacht comes from. What about the park itself? One thing that we noticed is this is not just a history center. You have an area for youth and youth for doing different things. A little bit more about the park itself and how it's used here in Germany.
Yeah, you're right. We have several departments, and the one and most important is, first of all, the science department, because we are carrying on with excavations, and the science is somehow the source from which everything came from, and we are trying to develop that further and further, and to answer more and more questions on the point of what has happened. So the second is, of course, the museum. So we are the department who then tries to make exhibitions from all these results. Science has to be transported, has to be communicated. It doesn't communicate from itself, so we have to do that. And we do that in exhibitions, and we do that in a lot of education programs for young kids, for scholars, for pupils, for adults, for elderly people. So we really try to offer something for everybody who is more or less interested in history, or just wants to know something about the area or the region, or just wants to know a bit more about how archaeology works, or wants to participate in archaeology. So this is another very important thing. And then we have a third department that is dealing with a completely different question. How can we change our content into really entertaining events? So this is like, what could we do in terms of a wonderful firework in autumn, or have reenactment activities on weekends, or have theater plays, or literature, or even music. We even do concerts, and next week we have an opera here in the park. So we try to offer a lot of things that may stimulate people to come, and then make them realize, oh, this is an interesting place to come again. Perhaps I should take the next time more time and have a look at the exhibitions, or to get more involved, or to buy a book, or whatever. So just to try to find as many sources of interest, and to offer people a wide range of programs.
We think that some of our people back home in our KNUJ listening area, and also watching on KNUJ.net, will certainly have interest in coming to Germany, and we'd like to help steer them up to the Varusschlacht Park and Museum, which is located, the larger town nearby is Osnabruck, and also Detmold is not all that far away. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back. Some other questions I want to find out what questions that people ask a lot when they come. What do people really want to know when they come here to the park? And also a little bit about the Interpretive Center and some of the facts that are laid out here. We had a chance to take that tour. I think people will enjoy some of that information. We're talking to Dr. Heidrun Berks, and we'll be back with more on KNUJ.net and KNUJ after this.